Hey guys, EJ again, and as you probably saw like a day or two ago, we got some crazy good changes for Shadow Priest. Been a little late on the video here, but I thought I'd put out my thoughts and what build I probably am gonna run on Tuesday, so you all would know. Um, Shadow Priest changes, guys. I was very surprised to see them. Not gonna lie. I know we needed help in certain areas, so I'm hoping this isn't over the top. We'll have to see. I do know like at lower ratings or newer Shadow Priests are struggling, is what I've been told. But at the higher end, this could be seen as a outlier. I'm hoping it's just like it evens out, and people are like, yeah, they're really strong at the high end, but they're decent in the mid, so we don't get nerfed. But let's just go into it, guys. Mind Blast 10%, not good. We all know Mind Blast hits like a tickle. This could probably got buffed by 30%, and it would have been relevant. Shadow Word Death, same thing, 10%, could have been 30%, would have made it relevant. But outside of that, now some juicy meat and potatoes here, right? We got Void Bolt by 10% if you run Void Eruption. So Void Bolt is hard to fit into the rotation just because our globals. But outside of your Rift, if you're in Void Eruption, your bolts hit for like 400 to 500,000. So outside your burst, you get to continue some ramp up, and this is a nice change, nice buff to that damage if you're gonna run Void Eruption. Shadow Apparitions by 10%. They hit like 30, 40k. They're not doing anything special. But the more pad you have, healers do go so this could just help with pad. It's just a buff, right? We can't complain about having a buff to our damage at this point. But the best part here that we're looking at is Voidweaver finally got changes. And that's been my advocate. Is I've been playing Voidweaver the entire time. You all know that. But we after the Archon nerf, we still needed something to make Voidweaver the play, as in like its own scary spec. Like we do a lot of damage, but we're complemented by things that allow us to. So we play with a rogue, we play with a feral, we play with a warlock, right? Well, in two of those comps, they never go you, right? In feral Shadow Priest, they go the feral, and in lock Shadow Priest, they generally go the lock. So that's why Shadow Priest gets to pump, and that's why people think we're so strong. It's because we get to free cast. But in comps where you don't get to free cast, it feels bad, right? So this is going to help a lot with just us having insane amount of pressure on our own, I think, and changing up our builds a little bit. But Entropic Rift getting a 10% damage, that's just the actual Rift itself, so that's really good because it cleaves everybody for 10% more. Void Blast getting 20%. This is the one we got to look at. Void Blast by 20% is a lot more damage, especially after the last changes it got. So that's pretty freaking good. Collapsing Void damage by 10%. That's the explosion at the end when you're done ramping. Void Flay, that's from your Void Wraith. So that's getting 10%. So Void Wraith is now more enticing to take, even though I already take it. And then Inner Coitus increases Vampiric Touch and Shadow or Pain by an additional 5%. So now our dots just do 5% more. So we're just more pad. We're more get to like spread pressure a lot better because 5% is a lot. But that also increases your Unfoiling Darkness, your on hits, right? So that's a plus to us. So this here is a lot of good changes. We were already pretty strong in the right comps, but these outliers, especially on the bottom here, these ones down here, where all of our Voidweaver stuff is going to hit harder. And now that I see everyone's starting to go Voidweaver, they're catching on. This is gonna be nice. Like especially I think this Void Blast buff and these Entropic Rifts, because now that these are stronger, they outdo, in my opinion, Void Bolt. So what does that mean to me? If hitting Entropic Rift and hitting Collapsing Void and hitting Void Blast is all more enticing to hit now than Void Bolt. Well, obviously these are just passive, right? But what I'm saying is it now makes me want to hit Void Blast. These are hitting harder, which now take precedence. What does that mean to me? That means to me that I am going to run Dark Ascension. Dark Ascension buffs Entropic Rift, buffs Collapsing Void, buffs Void Blast, buffs your on hits as well. So your Devouring Plague on hit, right? That gets buffed. All that gets buffed. So like, let me just put a non-macroed version on. So when we look over here, the Trop Rift says 55,000. Go ahead and get into Dark Ascension. Dark Ascension's up. 66,000. Right? Void Blast 379. Collapsing Void 47. So we have 379 and 47. Take it off. 316, 406. Right? That's a lot more damage. So instead of worrying about filling my damage with Void Bolts now, which is fine, Void Bolt's still gonna be fine. But now having stronger 1 minute goes because these got buffed harder, they're gonna do more upfront damage, and that makes Dark Ascension more enticing to me than Void Eruption, because before Void Blast didn't hit for anything. Rifts were good, and you could have already ran Dark Ascension, but to me, Void Bolt just did more DPS. It brought more insanity. But when you buff these abilities, they start to outweigh the Void Bolt buff, right? So now Rift is going to do more. Collapsing Void's going to do more, but then Void Blast got buffed by 20%. Then you buff it by another 20%. So now it's going to be worth trying to hit this button, right? It's going to be worth hopefully getting a Shadowy Insight proc and then using it while you're buffed into Dark Ascension. But also, Dark Ascension also buffs Devouring Plague. We get Void Empowerment, which gives us Mind Devourer, which is 20% stronger Devouring Plagues. So now, when I see Devouring Plague, it says 187, I go ahead and go into my Dark Ascension. Now it's 224. So your globals that you're already using are now extremely strong inside of Voidweaver come Tuesday, right? Because you're gonna pop your Rift, it's gonna do more damage. You're gonna pop your Devouring Plague, it's gonna do 20% more damage on top of 20% more damage, and then you're gonna maybe get Unfurling Darkness, which would be 20% more damage because it's the on hit version, plus 5%. I actually don't know if does Dark Ascension buff Unfurling Darkness. I actually don't know that one, but EjrSP does. 5% more, so that's stronger. Let's actually see that. I don't know if that counts as the dot. We'll see in 20. I actually never thought about thinking about that, because Unfurling Darkness get buffed because it's an on hit and not a dot. I'm pretty sure I've gone through this before, but my mind's thinking, does it? So we're gonna check real quick, because if that does get buffed by Dark Ascension, that's even better. Hold on, 612. Go to Guardian Dark Ascension. It is not. Okay, so Dark Ascension does not buff Unfurling Darkness, but because our Dark Evangelism buff Unfurling Darkness. Check that. 620. Apparently not. Apparently none of that. Cool. Good to know though. That's a good thing to know. So Unfurling Darkness apparently just stays Unfurling Darkness outside of it getting buffed by its own buff by EjrSP. So either way, a lot of on hit damage. Lot of pressure. So this is what I think I'm gonna be running on Tuesday, just because Dark Ascension 1 minute go. So every 30 seconds you have a go. One's a big go, and then you have a mini go. So you have a 30-second go, and then 30 seconds after that you get your fucking Dark Ascension big go. I feel like that's gonna be way more pressure with all these buffs, and then being able to cast Void Blast is gonna be nice. You're gonna want to press it, and then Void Rate's gonna hit, so you're gonna want to actually press your Void Blast in your go, right? You're gonna want to actually hit this. It's already hitting for 412, right? So and this is with no mastery. 430. I don't have my mastery up, so you're gonna do a lot of damage with that was a 587k Devouring Plague on hit, by the way. That was an on hit for Devouring Plague. So just all this damage, in my opinion, I feel like is gonna be benefited by Dark Ascension more. So take that as you will, but I think 20% stronger on a 10% stronger Rift, 20% stronger on a 10% Collapsing Void, 20% stronger on a 20% stronger Void Blast. All of that sounds a lot better than just the 10% on top of Void Bolt, because you're hella buffing these damages now, which is your main damage. So that's my thought process, guys. The bottom part, I don't know what I'm gonna run down here yet. I'm thinking of staying the exact same build. I might be thinking, I haven't tested it. If anybody has, if Mastermind, sorry about my baby, on cue as per usual. If Mastermind buffs Void Blast, I'm gonna test this here in a second because Void Blast takes over Mind Blast and Mastermind buffs Mind Blast, so that could also be insane with this build with Dark Ascension, Mastermind, right? So take these 2 points out, go there, and get 40% stronger on top of 40% stronger critical strike mind blast, which would be for Void Blast. I don't know if it does buff this, but it would actually be insane if it did. Something I gotta test. But either way, I'm probably gonna stay here, just also because still probably won't be able to fit as many Void Blasts as we'd like. Or I might go Ire, or I might go Formative Spirits. It just depends on the pad. If I need it, depends if I can cast, and depends on how much more burst I need. But this is probably what I'm going to start with. Same build I've been running, except with Dark Ascension. So that's my thought process. Sorry, I rambled a bit, but I thought you guys should know that Dark Ascension, in my opinion, is looking like the play on Tuesday. I'm not just saying that. I posted that. I posted that right up on here. My BNet. I even said. So this is just I want you guys to test it and tell me what you think. Let me know how you feel about it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.